Brain, R. The brain is an organ that serves as the center of the nervous system in all vertebrate and most invertebrate animals. The brain is located in the head, usually close to the sensory organs for senses such as vision. The brain is the most complex organ in a vertebrate's body. In a human, the cerebral cortex contains approximately 15 to 33 billion neurons, each connected by synapses to several thousand other neurons. These neurons communicate with one another by means of long protoplasmic fibers called axons, which carry trains of signal pulses called action potentials to distant parts of the brain or body targeting specific recipient cells. Physiologically, the function of the brain is to exert centralized control over the other organs of the body. The brain acts on the rest of the body both by generating patterns of muscle activity and by driving the secretion of chemicals called hormones. This centralized control allows rapid and coordinated responses to changes in the environment. Some basic types of responsiveness, such as reflexes, can be mediated by the spinal cord or peripheral ganglia, but sophisticated purposeful control of behavior based on complex sensory input requires the information integrating capabilities of a centralized brain. Thyroid cartilage. The thyroid cartilage is a cartilage that sits in front of the larynx and above the thyroid gland. The cartilage is composed of two halves, which meet in the middle at a peak called the laryngeal prominence, also called the Adam's apple. One in the midline above the prominence is the superior thyroid notch. A counterpart notch at the bottom of the cartilage is called the inferior thyroid notch. The two halves of the cartilage that make out the outer surfaces extend obliquely to cover the sides of the trachea. The posterior edge of each half articulates with the cricoid cartilage inferiorly at a joint called the crica-thyroid joint. The most posterior part of the cartilage also has two projections upwards and downwards. The upper projection is called the superior horn, cornu, and the lower is called the inferior horn. The superior horn is long and narrow, backward and mediaward, and ends in a conical extremity, which gives attachment to the lateral thyrocoid ligament. The inferior horn is short and thick. It is directed downward, with a slight inclination forward and mediaward, and presence on the medial side of its tip, a small oval articular facet for articulation with the side of the cricoid cartilage. The lungs are the primary organs of the respiratory system in humans and many other animals, including a few fish and some snails. In mammals and most other vertebrates, two lungs are located near the backbone on either side of the heart. Their function in the respiratory system is to extract oxygen from the atmosphere and transfer it into the bloodstream, and to release carbon dioxide from the bloodstream into the atmosphere in a process of gas exchange. Respiration is driven by different muscular systems in different species. Mammals, reptiles, and birds use their different muscles to support and foster breathing. In early tetrapods, air was driven into the lungs by the pharyngeal muscles via buccal pumping, a mechanism still seen in amphibians. In humans, the main muscle of respiration that drives breathing is the diaphragm. The lungs also provide airflow that makes vocal sounds, including human speech, possible. Humans have two lungs, a right lung and a left lung. They are situated within the thoracic cavity of the chest. The right lung is bigger than the left, which share space in the chest with the heart. The lungs together weigh approximately 1.3 kilograms, 2.9 lb, and the right is heavier. The lungs are part of the lower respiratory tract that begins at the trachea and branches into the bronchi and bronchioles, and which receive air breathed in via the conducting zone. The liver. The liver is a vital organ only found in vertebrates. In humans, it is located in the upper right quadrant of the abdomen below the diaphragm. The liver has a wide range of functions, including detoxification of various metabolites, protein synthesis, and the production of biochemicals necessary for digestion. It also plays a role in metabolism, regulation of glycogen storage, decomposition of red blood cells, and hormone production. The liver is a gland. It is an accessory digestive gland and produces bile, an alkaline compound which aids in digestion via the emulsification of lipids. The gallbladder. A small pouch that sits just under the liver stores bile produced by the liver. The liver's highly specialized tissue consisting of mostly hepatocytes regulates a wide variety of high-volume biochemical reactions, including the synthesis and breakdown of small and complex molecules, many of which are necessary for normal vital functions. Estimates regarding the organ's total number of functions vary, but textbooks generally cite it being around 500. There is currently no way to compensate for the absence of liver function in the long term, although liver dialysis techniques can be used in the short term. Artificial livers are yet to be developed to promote long-term replacement in the absence of the liver. As of now, liver transplantation is the only option for complete liver failure. The stomach is a muscular, hollow organ in the gastrointestinal tract of humans and many other animals, including several invertebrates. The stomach has a dilated structure and functions as a vital digestive organ. In the digestive system, the stomach is involved in the second phase of digestion following mastication chewing. In humans and many other animals, the stomach is located between the esophagus and the small intestine spleen. The spleen is an organ found in virtually all vertebrates. Similar in structure to a large lymph node, it acts primarily as a blood filter. The spleen plays important roles in regard to red blood cells, also referred to as erythrocytes, and the immune system. It removes old red blood cells and holds a reserve of blood, which can be valuable in case of hemorrhagic shock, and also recycles iron as a part of the mononuclear phagocyte system. It metabolizes hemoglobin removed from senescent red blood cells, erythrocytes. The globin portion of hemoglobin is degraded to its constitutive amino acids, and the heme portion is metabolized to bilirubin, which is removed in the liver. The spleen synthesizes antibodies in its white pulp and removes antibody-coated bacteria and antibody-coated blood cells by way of blood and lymph node circulation. A study published in 2009 using mice found that the red pulp of the spleen forms a reservoir that contains over half of the body's monocytes. These large intestine. The large intestine, also known as the large bowel or colon, is the last part of the gastrointestinal tract and of the digestive system in vertebrates. Water is absorbed here, and the remaining waste material is stored as feces before being removed by defecation. Most sources define the large intestine as the combination of the cecum, colon, rectum, and anal canal. Some other sources exclude the anal canal. In humans, the large intestine begins in the right iliac region of the pelvis, just at or below the waist, where it is joined to the end of the small intestine at the cecum via the ileocecal valve. It then continues as the colon, ascending the abdomen, across the width of the abdominal cavity as the transverse colon, and then descending to the rectum and its endpoint at the anal canal. Overall, in humans, the large intestine is about 1.5 meters 5 feet long, which is about 1/5 of the whole length of the gastrointestinal tract. The small intestine or small bowel is the part of the gastrointestinal tract between the stomach and the large intestine, and is where most of the end absorption of food takes place. The small intestine has 3 distinct regions: the duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. The duodenum is the shortest part of the small intestine, and is where preparation for absorption begins. It also receives bile and pancreatic juice through the pancreatic duct, controlled by the sphincter of Oddi. The primary function of the small intestine is the absorption of nutrients and minerals from food. The length of the small intestine can vary greatly, from as short as 2.75 meters 9.0 feet to as long as 10.49 meters 34.4 feet. The average length in a living person is 3 meters minus 5 meters 4.5. The length depends both on how tall the person is and how the length is measured. Taller people generally have a longer small intestine, and measurements are generally longer. Spine. The spine is our body's central support structure. It keeps us upright and connects the different parts of our skeleton to each other, such as the head, chest, pelvis, shoulders, arms, and legs. Kidney are. The kidneys are two bean-shaped organs found on the left and right sides of the body in vertebrates. They filter the blood in order to make urine to release and retain water, and to remove waste and nitrogen, the excretory system. They also control the ion concentrations and acid-base balance of the blood. Each kidney feeds urine into the bladder by means of a tube, known as the ureter. In humans, they are roughly 11 centimeters (4.3 in) length. The kidneys regulate the balance of ions known as electrolytes in the blood, along with maintaining acid-base homeostasis. They also move waste products out of the blood and into the urine, such as nitrogen-containing urea and ammonium. Kidneys also regulate fluid balance and blood pressure. They are also responsible for the reabsorption of water, glucose, and amino acids. The kidneys also produce hormones including calcitriol and erythropoietin. The kidneys also make an important enzyme, renin, which affects blood pressure through negative feedback. The pelvis, plural pelves or pelvises, is either the lower part of the trunk of the human body, one between the abdomen and the thighs, sometimes also called pelvic region of the trunk, or the skeleton embedded in it, sometimes also called bony pelvis, or pelvic skeleton. The pelvic region of the trunk includes the bony pelvis, the pelvic cavity, the space enclosed by the bony pelvis, the pelvic floor, below the pelvic cavity, and the perineum below the pelvic floor. The pelvic skeleton is formed in the area of the back, by the sacrum and the coccyx, and anteriorly and to the left and right sides by a pair of hip bones. The two hip bones connect the spine with the lower limbs. They are attached to the sacrum posteriorly, connected to each other anteriorly, and joined with the two femurs at the hip joints. The gap enclosed by the bony pelvis, called the pelvic cavity, is the section of the body underneath the abdomen and mainly consists of the reproductive organs, sex organs, and the rectum, while the pelvic floor at the base of the cavity assists in supporting the organs of the abdomen.